You're listening to the Fan Club Podcast, where two polar opposites discover each other's fandoms for the very first time. Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Fan Club Podcast. My name is Sarah.
This is Matthew.
And this is episode 26, and this is the second episode of Wanda Week. It's very weird uploading on a Tuesday.
Part 2 of Wanda Week. So we will be covering episodes 3 and 4.
Episode 3 is called Now in Color, and episode 4 is called We Interrupt This Program.
Yes.
So, the episode 3 is very, Brady Bunch-esque.
Yeah, so...
The intro is very Brady Bunch-esque. Obviously, we were not alive during this era, but,
No, not at all.
I did mention in yesterday's episode that my mom loved the Brady Bunch when she was a kid. And so she would, what was that channel? TV Land?
TV Land, yeah.
That, always played, old shows. And so she would, whenever Brady Bunch was on that
Brady
channel.
Bunch was on TV Land? I always thought TV Land was more for...
Typically, it was
50s
usually...
50s and 60s.
It was usually on in, weekday mornings.
Okay.
Or, Sunday mornings.
When I would watch TV Land... It was always, the Dick Van Dyke Show.
I Love Lucy, Bewitched. The older shows.
Sometimes a couple Hitchcock episodes.
I think, Brady Bunch was
Andy
also...
Griffith.
Brady Bunch was also sometimes on reruns, on some of our local channels, when the news wasn't on. Sometimes.
What channel was Brady Bunch on?
When it was airing?
Yeah.
Oh, I have no idea.
I feel like it was, it would be an ABC show.
That's absolutely not my area of expertise.
I was right. It was ABC.
Wow. Okay.
It went from 96 to 74.
But yeah, this theme song is extremely Brady Bunchy. Yeah. I will say I didn't.
It was Brady Bunch.
Yeah, I mean even the house is very distinctly Brady Bunch.
Yeah.
Something I didn't notice initially in watching, but I was watching a video doing recaps because it's been maybe about a week or so since we've. I was watching a recap video and they were talking about possible theories and stuff like that, and they made a really interesting point.
What?
That throughout the episode so far, there's been a significant amount of hexagons. It's been showing a lot of hexagons.
Mm-hmm. And
I think it's in episode 4, which we'll talk about, that Darcy coined the term hex as a name for they call it a pocket reality is what Wanda has created.
Do you know why there's hexes everywhere? Do you remember what Wanda was originally called in yesterday's episode?
No.
She's the Hex Witch.
That makes sense. Well, because I also
That's why there was always hexagons.
So
and stuff
the person
that.
In the video, this was an older video, when the show.
Wandavision was a year old. So.
But when the show was airing.
Yeah.
So he didn't have all the information when he was speaking, but he was theorizing that it had because there were so many hexagons. If you go back and watch the show, you'll probably notice a lot of the hexagons now that I've mentioned it to you. And they're subtle, but the guy was mentioning that he thought it had something to do with the guy in the beekeeper's uniform.
That's what they wanted you to believe.
I just thought it was an interesting point. I think more than likely it was just a reference to the fact that her little pocket reality is referred to as a hex and she's the Hex Witch, and
so
I don't think it's necessarily means anything more than that.
This is slight spoils for episode. I mean, it's still in the same episode. It's just this is in episode 4 of Wandavision. Do you want to take a guess why he was in the beekeeper suit? Do you want to take a wild guess? So, when that dude originally went into the tunnel, he was in protective gear. Modern-day protective gear.
Yeah, and his, the reality,
was in the
him.
60s. So, he went to whatever protective gear would be in the 60s.
Yeah.
So, kind of like the helicopter, when it first went in, it was a modern-day surveillance drone. But that era was from the 60s, so it just turned into... essentially just a toy helicopter.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, I get what you're saying. Apparently that guy who was in the beekeeper suit, because a lot of people were speculating at the time, is this a significant person? Because we didn't see the guy's face.
It's just a random.
But apparently that guy is a very common he works on, he's like the stunt actor for like a bunch of MCU stuff.
Okay.
Like he's in almost all of them as a stunt actor.
Okay, cool.
I don't know him by name, so I apologize. Editing Sarah here. His name is Zach Henry. He's not in all of them. He is in Thor and Black Panther and Infinity War, Endgame, Ant-Man and the Wasp, No Way Home, and a couple episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But he has worked as a stunt performer as well as stunt drivers and stunt rigging coordinators behind the scenes. So yeah, both on and off screen. But his name is Zach Henry.
But I'm guessing he's always in like some mask, something.
But like he is like a big stunt actor for a lot of the guys in the MCU.
That's pretty cool.
I just find that really interesting because everybody was looking for oh, is it this significant person? Is it this significant person?
Yeah, that's what I love about these Marvel. Honestly, in my opinion, I know this is a hot take. I think they should stick with doing more TV shows and a whole lot less movies.
I don't know if I disagree with you. This is only the first show that I've seen, so that Wandavision at its core did a really good job of suspension of disbelief. And
having you question everything.
Exactly. You were this may be a harsh word to use, but I almost feel like it gaslit you a little bit into like a you know what's going on, and then all of a sudden you don't have any idea.
You really don't know what's going on until episode 4. Like until that point, or
even
end of 3.
Yeah. So anyway, getting into it. So like I said, it opens with a very Brady Bunch-esque. There is a couple other shows that this intro references, but
it's mainly Brady Bunch.
Again, it was the 70s. I was not born yet for another 20 years.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, and I did not write them down. So, but there were a handful of other shows that the intro does reference, but Brady Bunch is a heavy influence.
Yeah.
And the house is extremely Brady-esque.
That's what I love about, like, the house changes.
Well,
which is cool.
Also, the house references, because, so this whole, they refer to this type of a thing as a pocket reality, in media. So, like, the same thing with the Truman Show. I know I talked about the Truman Show a lot in the last episode, but it's kind of hard not to. But this kind of trope is referred to as a pocket reality. And in Wanda's quote-unquote pocket reality, a lot of the house and a lot of the decor is formed from her subconscious.
Yeah.
And so one of those big examples is there's a painting on the wall. It's between the staircase and the kitchen in the 70s style house. That it's a very washed out photo, but it's the castle in Sokovia that you see at the beginning of Age of Ultron.
Yes.
And
sorry, that movie is still creepy. It's
the Pinocchio references.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Don't even get me started on the live action Pinocchio that just came out. Haven't watched it, won't watch it.
Oh, and All in the Family. It's the
like Family Ties and like All in the Family and like
yeah, All in the Family. Which one was All in the Family?
I do not remember.
All in the Family.
Anybody that's older than us is like yelling at their device right now. Yeah, it references a bunch of different TV shows, but Brady Bunch.
It does all of like the family style TV shows.
Well, because what I like about that is not only is it the era, but it's also this is the episode that their kids are born.
Yeah.
And so this is the first, because like I Love Lucy is primarily about Lucy and Ricky. I don't even think they have kids.
I don't know.
But like the Brady Bunch is like primarily about the kids.
I've seen maybe one episode of Brady.
No, but what I'm saying is like it's the whole crux of the Brady Bunch is about the blended family and about the kids.
Okay.
So anyway, Wanda is pregnant, and her pregnancy is happening like super, super rapidly, to which I respond, I freaking wish.
Yeah.
Because pregnancy was like really hard for me, and it was like, I wish the pregnancy could last like 3 days like hers.
Yeah. But they do all the classic tropes though of hiding the pregnancy.
Like, oh yeah.
Cooking, putting coats on in front.
So if you're not aware, in sitcoms specifically,
when
an actress is pregnant and they don't want...
Not in the show, like in real life.
Yeah, no, when the actress is pregnant and they don't want the character to be pregnant, they will a lot of the times try to hide it. One of the big ones is when Courtney Cox got pregnant on Friends.
Same.
And it was already established that Monica had fertility problems.
Yeah.
And so it happened to coincide with the show ending. So it was fine. But
I thought Monica had kids at the end.
They adopted.
Okay.
And
I think they did a similar thing with Kaylee Kuko from Big Bang Theory. Not with her being pregnant. I think she broke her leg or something. She broke a bone, and they had to hide where she was.
They've done it on a number of different ones. Like New Girl, I know Zooey Deschanel was pregnant at one point, and she was away, quote unquote, away with jury duty for several episodes. I know they write it into a lot of things, because I know Amy on Brooklyn Nine-Nine was she was undercover as a pregnant inmate at one point when she was actually pregnant.
Yeah.
And then Amy's actual pregnancy, not the actress's pregnancy, was
later.
Yeah. But they will write it in, the big one is Phoebe from Friends is pregnant with triplets when she was actually pregnant with her child.
Yeah. Sometimes shows will write it in, and sometimes...
But, one of the big... I've never seen Seinfeld, but I know it's, this episode's, a big thing, is there's a episode of Seinfeld where, Julie Louis-Dreyfus is on the subway, and the whole episode is shot from, chest up, because she's pregnant in it. Anyway, so she's pregnant, and her powers are going, crazy.
Yeah.
Probably, in hindsight, it's probably because she's, losing her grip on reality. And so she starts experiencing Braxton Hicks, which can relate. I had Braxton Hicks for, I think, a solid month. Probably.
Yeah, from March to April.
And then our son was born 3 weeks early, so... Yeah. But yeah,
throughout the episode, we see her belly getting bigger.
Yeah.
And, the doctor says, you're about 10 weeks away, or 10 weeks pregnant, and then the doctor leaves to go on vacation.
Well, I actually really like this interaction between Vision and Wanda and the doctor, where the doctor is he's talking very in very 70s-esque terms, because that's the era that we're talking about, and he's we still to this day use fruits terms, but he's speaking about these terms very in very dated terms.
Yes.
And it's just really funny. Having been pregnant fairly recently.
Yeah.
Just knowing that, it's, semi-accurate, but, also, what does it mean when your baby's the size of a head of broccoli? What does that even mean? My favorite is when they say that your baby is the size of a banana. Because bananas they range in size.
That's why candy's a whole lot better. Candy or toys?
The app that I used had several different options. And it was, animals and candy and baked goods, and there was one that was a 90s nostalgia, so it was your baby is the size of a Furby. It's so stupid.
It's fun, it's funny, but it's why?
It's but also every baby is so different.
Yes.
And I mean, yeah, the measurements are not wildly off.
Yeah. But yeah, so her Braxton Hicks causes a blackout for the street.
The neighborhood, yeah.
The neighborhood.
And Geraldine comes over. And
we get the Hydra soak ad.
Yeah.
Which could mean two things. So the Hydra is talking about a bubble bath powder. The soap promises to help escape to a world all of your own, where your problems float away.
Which is what she's doing.
Alluding to Hydra's experimentation on unlocking Wanda's powers and letting her start a new life.
But it's also what
Wanda's Wanda is running away from her problems.
Yeah.
But
it's also that's a direct that whole commercial is a direct reference to a bath product that existed in the era.
Okay, so
the commercial is shot for shot.
I know.
I couldn't tell you the exact brand, but
I don't think anyone could at this point. So, I know I went on a little, not tangent this morning with you about Hydra, or last night.
I do not recall, but okay.
So, okay, I know this is off topic, kind of, but the Hydra's logo, okay? Their logo is an octopus. Why isn't it a Hydra from mythology?
Oh, yeah, I remember this.
Because they always say, if you cut off the head of one,
Yeah, why
another
is it an
will
octopus?
come. So why isn't it a Hydra? Because if you cut off an octopus tentacle,
I
it doesn't grow back.
I think because in media, the image of a Hydra is very inconsistent.
It's usually... They could have done a multi-headed dragon.
I agree with you, but that would that look too much like Game of Thrones? Would that look too much like the Targaryen logo?
True. I mean,
because it could.
It's even that logo in the comics. That's the thing. That's always been the Hydra logo. It's not
Stan
an
Lee.
MCU thing.
Stan Lee, may you rest in peace. What are you doing?
But I don't know. I was thinking about that last night, and sort of this, like, was it last night?
I think you're definitely onto something.
Because
however, I do think it could.
It does.
I
make
understand
sense.
when they, because you say that logo was the same in the comics, so this obviously wasn't a thing. But in the MCU, especially the more recent films,
Hydra's not really a huge part anymore.
But the Hydra logo, if it was a multi-headed dragon, could look too much like the Targaryen logo.
Yeah.
Because that's essentially what the Targaryen logo looks like.
I know, but this was also made a long time ago.
We're in the middle of watching House of Dragon right now, and, well, as everybody is, pretty much, that, is into that stuff.
I would
so,
not recommend it for the faint of heart.
I wouldn't recommend Game of Thrones in general for the faint of heart.
Yeah.
But if it's your jam, it's a great show. Basically, Geraldine comes by, and she basically is like, there's a blackout, and she was purporting to, like, basically come check on her. In hindsight, now we know that Monica, I should say, was coming by to kind of, like, get information.
Yeah.
Her water break, and it starts raining, which this is another...
It starts raining in the house.
This is another sitcom trope that a lot of ladies, like, their water breaks in, like, very inconvenient places.
Mm-hmm.
My water broke in the middle of the night in bed, so...
Yep.
But, like, that's a very sitcom-y trope. Unless I'm mistaken, I don't think I've ever met a woman that has gone into labor that her water broke in, like, the middle of work or, like, an elevator or wherever. Like, most people kind of know when their water is breaking.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not a surprise ever.
Yeah, no.
You're kind of, like, it's gonna be any day.
Yeah.
Wanda basically, like, conjures up a stork. Or no, so she...
No, she doesn't conjure up the
No, the stork on the mural comes alive.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Or before, it came to life before she went into labor.
Yeah. But, like, she's trying to cover it up. Because,
like, her TV is changing decades, her lamps are changing decades, her furniture is changing decades. Everything in the house is, like, some stuff is 50s and 60s, 70s, things like that.
Yeah. And so then they are basically delivering the baby, and it's a boy, and they name him Tommy.
Mm-hmm.
And then, shocking, they figure out that there's another baby.
And it's Billy.
This, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but, like, sonograms exist. I mean, obviously she's only been pregnant.
They did at that time.
She's only been pregnant for, like, 3 days at this point. So it's, like, it's one thing, but, like, sonograms existed at this point, right? Basically, Wanda then does a, like, little Sokovian lullaby to the babies.
Mm-hmm. And
Geraldine, aka Monica, basically is, like, asking about, like, Pietro. Like, she was saying, like, oh, you're a twin, too.
Yeah. And then Wanda's like, how do you know
and
that?
she's like, he died in Sokovia.
Against Ultron.
Yeah.
And Wanda gets mad and says...
And she flings her out of town.
You cannot be here. And just flings her... I mean, we also... Before that, Agnes and Herb... Black guy.
Yeah.
Herb were talking.
Oh, yeah, there's that...
And Herb was saying, you have to help us. You have to free us.
Well, and what's also really interesting is there's this point in which Herb kind of, like, sketches out a little bit, and it's very similar. If anybody out there has ever seen Westworld, It's similar to when the hosts kind of glitch a little bit.
But
somebody
we
described.
know why he glitches.
No, I know, but somebody online referred to it as like very NPC-like.
I wouldn't say very NPC-like. It's more...
Because he's cutting the hedges and he starts cutting into the fence.
That was before. What I'm talking about is when Agnes and him were talking.
Yeah, no, I know, but
Later.
It's clear that...
They're NPCs when they're, quote-unquote, in character. They're NPCs.
But it's almost like in Westworld when they're kind of regaining...
They're just on loops.
No, but like... You know how, like, Maeve and stuff would, like, regain consciousness for a hot second?
Yeah.
And she would say something that was less, spoilers for Westworld, but, like, she would say something that was a little less scripted, so to speak. So, yeah, she gets flung out of,
Wanda's
town.
house and the town, and
we learn that she's Monica from... She's the little girl from Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
Which, I didn't mention it, but I am so down for the outfit that Geraldine/Monica is wearing throughout this entire episode.
So
it's like so disco-y and I'm so into it.
So there's one other thing. So you remember what I was saying earlier about like the beekeeper outfit and the different things like that? Mm-hmm. Her outfit also changed. We'll go a little bit more in episode 4 or
Well, we're
6?
about to get into episode 4.
Is it 4 or 6?
But I just aesthetically wise, I think, first of all, I think that blue color is amazing on her skin tone. Mm-hmm. I think, especially the blue eyeshadow, I think it really suits her.
And now we are about to meet my favorite, I wouldn't say sub-character.
Side character?
B character.
So episode 4 is the first one that is not all entirely within Westview.
No, we don't see any of Westview. We don't see inside of Westview in this episode.
So episode 4 is entitled We Interrupt This Program, and it opens with Monica returning from getting dusted. And she learns that her mom died of her cancer.
3 years ago.
She wakes up in the hotel, or in the hospital room.
Yeah.
That her mom was in, and everybody is coming back all at once, so people are kind of freaking out.
Yeah. No one knows what happened. So we sort of learned from this when WandaVision takes place is probably 3 weeks to a month after Endgame.
Yeah. We did look up the timeline a little bit.
So, Far From Home is 8 months after Endgame, roughly.
Yeah.
So, Far From Home takes place after WandaVision.
I have it a little
warped. Which is crazy.
I have it a little warped only because we watched WandaVision after.
But it was also released after. Far From Home was released before WandaVision. Maybe? I don't know.
Anyway.
I could be wrong.
No, I could have sworn it was released, like, beginning of summer last year. Yeah, it was released in, like, August of last year. And WandaVision was released in January.
No. No Way Home was released late last year.
I keep getting them mixed up.
No Way Home was released after WandaVision. But I think Far From Home...
So, yeah.
Yeah, Far From Home was released in 19. And then... Yeah.
The names of Spider-Mans are too similar.
So, Spider-Man was actually released after all of the TV shows besides Moon Knight. We had a lot come out in 21. We had WandaVision, Falcon, Loki, Black Widow, What If, Shang-Chi, Eternals, Hawkeye,
to be fair,
Spider-Man.
I think COVID might have delayed a lot of production. And
yeah,
people were finally back at work.
There was no Marvel in 20. Because I think
I'm saying a lot of people were out of work. And so it delayed a lot of production, which...
It delayed almost all movies.
Because a lot of things were supposed to come out in 20, but they couldn't put all the finishing touches on things.
And with theaters still being closed for most of 20.
Yeah.
They couldn't release them.
So we go to Sword HQ.
Which...
We meet Hayward. Which I got weird villain vibes from him, and they never did anything with it.
No, he is the villain. He is 100% the villain. I don't say Agnes is... I'll talk about that later. But Hayward is the true villain, in my opinion. Because, essentially, he's the reason why he inadvertently caused this to happen. And I'll explain more in episode 8.
It's not super relevant to this particular...
No.
I'm not worried about spoiling you, because if you're listening...
It's not important right now.
If you're listening to this, that's on you for getting spoiled.
Yeah, so, this is where we learn it's been 3 weeks. after, because she comes
Yeah.
back to work after 3 weeks, and she's the only one that got blipped that came back.
Monica then gets sent to Westview to, like, kind of check this out.
For a missing person report.
Yeah. And they basically figure out that, like, to their knowledge, the town doesn't exist.
Yeah, because there's some police officers out there that's like, Westview doesn't exist.
She flies a toy helicopter into the town.
Which is the helicopter that we find.
Yeah.
So, technically, she gets there. No, so the helicopter that she sends in is, so timeline-wise, it's been essentially a day or two in Westview.
Mm-hmm.
From what makes sense, each episode would be about 2 days or a day, would you say?
Yeah.
Like, timeline-wise?
So that Monica gets sucked into the energy fields.
Or she walks into it.
Yeah, and this is how we get her in the town.
Which is why she had to come...
As Geraldine.
That's why she had to come up with a name for it.
And that's why she almost, in hindsight, I did not notice this in the moment.
Acted differently than everyone else.
She was less NPC-like.
Essentially, it's a video game. Wanda created a video game for their perfect little life.
Oh, and then we go back to the S.H.I.E.L.D. base. They basically set up camp outside of where the field is.
Yeah, just on one side.
And we get Darcy.
Mm-hmm.
And
we get Wu.
Yes, this is your favorite.
My favorite. I don't want to say sub-character.
He's
important in Ant-Man, but he's not crucial to Ant-Man.
He's a supporting character. That's
Just
literally what you just described.
It sounds bad saying supporting.
That's what he is.
I know, but I love Wu. Wu is so funny, but also I like a lot everything that he's in. Also, like he's in Fresh Off the Boat. He's the dad.
He's the dad.
Yeah.
I've only seen a handful of those episodes.
He is hilarious.
But yeah, I'm glad to see Darcy back, and apparently she's a doctor now.
I mean, it's also been...
No, I know.
A decade since we last saw her?
I think she was the shining light of Thor that movie so desperately needed.
I wouldn't say shining light.
Yeah, but she was the comic relief that that movie desperately needed.
Yeah.
And both of them, really. I liked the second one way better.
I mean, she really wasn't in the second one a whole lot.
But, like, she made that movie just a hair more bearable to me.
But, I mean, Kat Dennings is also, like, funny and everything.
Here's the thing. No shade to Kat Dennings. I just feel like she's Kat Dennings in everything.
Yeah.
I don't feel like she doesn't disappear into a character a lot of the time.
So, I know this is off topic and, again, a different fandom. But,
it's literally what we do here.
Or a different comic fandom. So, Sandman, for example. In the audiobook, Kat Dennings plays Death in it. And it's a different vibe for Kat Dennings.
I don't know if it's because she has a very distinct voice.
It may be the
or
voice.
It's her comedic timing.
But
like, because what actors are supposed to do is disappear into their characters.
But Kat Dennings...
And she doesn't.
Darcy is different than Two Broke Girls Kat Dennings. It's not the same vibe.
She's a lot more serious as Darcy.
I want to say serious?
More determined, maybe, and less sarcastic. Less deadpan.
Yes. Less deadpan. I can't think of a way to describe it, but Kat Dennings in Two Broke Girls is more of like in your face funny, while Darcy is more...
I just think it's a different tone of the show. But like, I don't dislike Kat Dennings by any means. That's not at all what I'm saying. I don't know if I could watch an entire season or an entire movie with her in it. Like that she was the main character. I think she is a really good supporting character.
She is reading the radiation levels coming from it, and she sees...
There's a lot of sciencey talk.
So, she sees there's two different wavelengths. There's this CMRA, or CMRA or whatever, which is the radiation that's all around us at all times, which is from the Big Bang.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was another radiation level.
Which, do you remember what else comes from the Big Bang?
I know you're going to say the Infinity Stones, but it's not entirely true.
Yeah, but that's what Wong says in Infinity War.
the Infinity Stones came from 6 Celestials that were made.
The speech that Wong gives in Infinity War to talk to Tony about the Infinity Stones is literally talking about how they're from the Big Bang. Or is he simplifying it?
Simplifying it.
Yeah.
They're from 6 Celestials. It's from this... It's the 6 primordial powers, which the Big Bang created.
So what Wong was basically saying was just dumbing it down a little bit?
Yes.
Or had they not expanded that yet?
Dumbing it down.
Okay.
Because we also saw in Far From Home, I know they weren't real villains, but the elementals, like the fire, water, it's the same thing. It was made from
4 parts coming together in harmony. Sorry, I shouldn't...
4 nations,
I shouldn't quote that because I've never...
You missaid it already, so your nerd level's going back to 0. No, but a lot of the more powerful villains and beings and items are from the primordial, like the first beings from the big...
They basically are, like, they have all of these profiles on all of the people.
So from the TV show, they're...
Like Norm and... Dottie's the only one that doesn't have one.
Dottie has one. They all have one.
Maybe later, but in this episode she doesn't.
No. So they had to find a old school TV for Darcy. Because newer TVs couldn't pick up the frequency. So they're seeing all the people that have been reported missing.
Yeah, they're all like...
And so they're doing them one by one. So they started with the first episode because Dottie wasn't seen in the first episode.
Oh, yeah.
Dottie was first introduced.
But it's like Herb and Norm.
Agnes is the only one that does not have a missing.
She doesn't have an ID card. Everybody else has... She has there's a
Picture,
profile. There's a profile
but
of
there's
her.
no ID or anything.
Yeah.
So they're slowly... I think the first one was Herb and...
Norm. Well, and what's interesting is there is stuff at the bottom. People have zoomed in on their screenshots on the internet that it's like notes of like they're not in character, which is weird because the only footage they're getting that Sword is getting
is what Wanda is allowing.
Yeah, which I think is weird.
And Darcy is confused by the
unless that note information is coming specifically from Monica, like observing people.
But we don't...
It could be coming from Monica.
But they started getting the people's info before Monica came back out.
She could have like relayed the information.
But she wouldn't have seen them break character. It was
maybe she ran into him at the grocery store or something.
I think it's more on what those people are doing, like their roles and stuff in it, not with them breaking character.
I don't know. It's kind of because it's a very quick shot, and people have like tried to screenshot it and like zoom into it. I admittedly have very bad eyes, and I have a hard time reading people's handwriting.
That's the thing. I don't think it would be breaking character because if anyone broke character, Wanda would have restarted.
She would have, because we learn
kind of like with the beekeeper.
But we learn that someone is censoring the broadcast because because there's a point in which Vision has like a moment.
It's after the beekeeper.
And she like edits him.
No, she redoes so, or was it the first episode? It is the first episode. He's questioning her on something.
No, it's in the 70s. It's in the 70s house.
But the first cut we see is the beekeeper.
Yeah. And she rewinds and stuff.
Yeah. Which, that's the first one that Darcy got confused on.
And this is where we get the reveal that Wu was the one that spoke to her through the radio.
Yes, so we see Wu talking to Wanda.
I still think it's really cool that they used that Beach Boys song.
I think it was just playing, and then he...
But the song was called Come On, Rhonda.
Yeah, so...
And I think it was really clever.
Yeah.
That's all.
And then, so we see Dottie break character for a second, and then Wanda...
She, glitches,
She glitches, and then Wanda restarts.
Yeah.
Like a couple seconds ago, where the radio doesn't go on, where the radio's off, and Dottie doesn't cut her hand.
So, then we go back to Wanda's point of view. And there's this jump scare of Vision post Thanos. It's of his like purple.
It's his head crushed in.
Yeah, but it's a jump scare. The music is scary.
Which
leads you to believe that this is a manifestation of her grief.
Yes.
That's essentially reading between the lines here. And all Wanda wants is her happy ending.
Because she says... Or that's what Monica... Because we see Monica, we re-see Monica getting sucked out.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go and she wakes up and says she just wants her happy. Wanda just wants her family.
Yeah, I think that there is some moral gray area here.
More than just gray, it's like...
I hesitate to call Wanda entirely... I wouldn't necessarily use evil. I think she's severely mentally ill. That's for sure.
That's the thing. She didn't plan...
Get this girl some grief counseling, man.
I mean, literally, her boyfriend died in front of her. After rewinding... So she killed him. Thanos rewound time. Then re-killed him.
I think this is a manifestation. I'm not saying you... Obviously, you are still responsible for the things that you do, even when you're mentally unwell. But I think that she was severely mentally unwell.
I mean, her entire life, she grew up... Okay, so, like, her entire life, she grew up hating Tony Stark. She grew up hating Stark.
Yeah, because of the bomb.
But the bomb wasn't...
It wasn't his fault.
That's the thing.
It was his name on it.
So, back to...
But it wasn't like Tony was like, I'm gonna bomb these kids.
No, this was Obadiah.
Yeah, that's...
Obadiah sold the missiles to the bad guys. And so, it still had Stark's logo, so she thought it was Stark. She grew up hating Stark, which added to her grief. Her parents dying in front of her. That's grief 1. Her being a lab rat for Hydra and turning into Scarlet Witch is grief 2, where she saw people die in front of her.
Is this where you want to get into those ads? So there's an interesting thing that each ad throughout the show has been a reference to
her trauma.
An aspect of her trauma. So, like, the toaster was made by Stark Industries.
Yeah.
And it's ticking like a bomb.
Mm-hmm.
The Strucker watch.
But, I mean, all toasters also tick like that.
Yeah, but still. And then the Strucker watch, the Hydra soak. In the future, there will be a Lagos paper towel. Lagos being the town that she exploded that building in.
Mm-hmm. Or it was the Wakandan refugee.
Yeah.
Or not Wakandan refugee, I'm sorry. Wakanda mission trip. We're in that.
There's
building.
also a theory that you see the same two folks in each ad, and some people are saying that they're Wanda and Pietro's parents. Like, she's manifesting her parents.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we do see her mom and dad.
Yeah, later.
Yeah. I don't know. Can you pull up one of the...
Oh, also, a lot of people are saying that each ad references an Infinity Stone as well.
No, that's not her parents.
No, but a lot of people are saying, like, they represent her parents. Not necessarily that they're the same actors.
No, she doesn't see the commercials.
No, but, like, her subconscious creates them. Because her subconscious is creating the broadcast.
I think they're just...
Somebody theorized that. I'm not saying I believe it.
I don't believe that one either. Because it would be too convenient.
I agree with you. I was just saying that that's what somebody posed.
But if it theorized, if it was supposed to be her parents,
just
then...
her mind's manifestation of her parents. Like...
Or she may not remember what her parents look like.
Maybe.
I mean, she was also...
I just thought it was an interesting...
Yeah, it is interesting, but...
But, so...
I don't see that theory.
This might be niche, and for somebody I have referenced Friends 3 times now, I will say I've watched it several times. I'm not the biggest Friends fan in the world, but it's culturally significant. But these ads remind me so much of the ads that Joey does when he's, like, an out-of-work actor.
Yeah.
Specifically the one for the milk...
I was going to say the Japanese one.
The Ichiban, lipstick for men.
Yeah.
No, specifically the...
You say you're not the biggest Friends fan in the world, even though you knew...
I've seen every episode multiple times.
Okay.
But it reminds me specifically of the one, it's like a milk spigot for a carton of milk. These ads just give me that vibe so much.
Yeah.
I was kind of hoping in the 90s episode that we would get, like, a very, like, 90s-esque Razor ad.
I mean, we really don't see a whole lot of the 90s.
It
goes from 80s...
We'll cover it, but it heavily references Full House, which is funny.
It is Full House.
Because it's... Elizabeth Olsen is
Yeah.
Olsen twins' sister. Anyway, so that is the end of this episode. What are your final thoughts?
The show is getting really good. I love how, like, most TV shows like this will have, like, some cliffhangers.
This one keeps you on your toes.
Yes.
I imagine...
Without it being cliffhangery.
I imagine when it was airing, it probably was one of those shows that,
people were theorizing...
No,
everything.
I'm saying, like, the second it ended, you're like, what? I want more.
They did a great way of ending the WandaVision show. I feel like they did a great way of doing it.
However, my only caveat is from here on out, we get more sword stuff than we do within Westview stuff.
No, we get more
Westview.
Westview.
We get nearly even. And I kind of wish they delayed the sword reveal a little bit longer.
I don't.
Just because I love the campiness. I love the sitcom.
But we still have that same campiness. I mean, sword, I wouldn't say is 50-50. Like, the next time it's mainly sword.
It's a little bit more balanced.
That's the thing. Like, in the Halloween episode, we get some sword. We really only see sword a couple more times.
I'm just saying, this episode specifically, I wish that maybe there was, like, one more episode of, like, what's going on here.
Episode 5.
I don't know how that would have...
But we still don't know what's going on.
I don't know how that would have affected the pacing of the entire season.
It would have changed it, because they would have had to do more episodes.
Yeah. I think maybe my thing with that is I binged it all in one weekend.
We binged it in one day.
But
essentially.
I think maybe it would have been less... I would have feel this less if I was watching it week to week.
Yes. Because, that's the thing. 9 episodes was enough, in my opinion.
Well, and I asked you the other week, I was like, are they going to do a second season?
No.
And frankly, I'm glad they're not doing it, because where are we going to go from here?
I mean, Wanda's story is...
See, this is what I mean by shows need to quit while they're ahead. Because...
Wanda's story is coming to an end.
I think that more shows need to end when their stories are good. Yeah. And not just keep creating... Game of Thrones, take notes.
Like, we do get a second season of Loki, but it makes sense why. Which you will see why in
I don't know what you mean, but okay. But, like, I think so many shows that are on TV, either currently or used to be on, just have a serious problem of just, like... And I get it,
just
money.
Keeping it... Yeah.
But, like, they just want to keep it afloat so desperately.
The MCU really doesn't need money.
But, like, people want to keep things afloat so desperately that it ends up drowning.
Yeah. Which...
Game of Thrones is the biggest culprit, in my personal opinion.
And when we say Game of Thrones, we're not talking about House of Dragon.
We're talking about the OG show.
Yeah, we're talking about
because, like,
one that
after season 4...
Year before?
2019.
2019.
After season 4, they ran out of books.
I thought it was season 5. There's 5 books. Yeah, season 6.
Yeah, but they went off script for season 5. So okay. I'm not really counting it.
Okay.
But after season 4, they just completely went off the freaking rails. I get that some people's stories weren't over yet, but if they would have maybe, like, wrapped some people up in season 4, it wouldn't have felt so tired by the end. And completely, absolutely bonkers bananas crazy.
Yeah. But, or how are you so far? Which one has been your favorite episode so far out of the first 4? Or do you not really have a favorite yet?
I don't really have a favorite, but the charm and the campiness of the first 2 episodes is just so unbeatable.
Yeah.
I think that we lingered on it a lot in the beginning. Just the way that they did the practical effects, the costuming is amazing, the set dressing is amazing, the tone of the show and the pacing of the show is so incredibly perfect.
Yeah.
Like, that quite possibly may be the perfect episode of television, is the first episode of WandaVision. Like, it's just... I know that's really dramatic, but it is such a well-crafted piece of TV. I think Elizabeth Olsen is so good at this camp.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I keep using that word and it doesn't really have a definition, but it's just like that over-the-topness
The
to it.
over-the-top sitcom-y.
Even the NPCs do a really good job. Like Agnes, like Catherine Hahn, her line delivery is so, like, the way that she, like, sweeps through a room and her big gestures and her, like, over-the-top tone to her voice is so of that era.
Yeah.
I just think that this show is incredibly well cast. Okay, so join us tomorrow for the we're gonna cover 5 and 6, and yeah, we'll see you tomorrow.
Bye. If you would like to send us any feedback, you can follow us on Instagram at thefanclub_podcast or Twitter at fanclub_podcast. You can also discuss each episode with us on our subreddit, which is reddit.com/r/thefanclubpodcast. And make sure you tune in every Marvel Monday.